So-
isn't it like 3-1 or it's real high difference, snow melt versus rain?
Yeah.
But if you have a lot of snow, it's good cover. You don't have that open winter, that's what I'm saying.
24 inches of snow in one shot, you know, it's like
Yeah, but
eight
depending
inches,
on how it
of
melts,
rain.
depending on how it melts, you know, if it
Yeah.
melts fast, it runs away, and the ground's still frozen, if it melts slow, it sinks in.
I guess that was part of their problem, it took them a long time to get in the field and get started, so.
Two of my kids were born in Minnesota, and one of my oldest daughter's first words was, "No more no, no more no." She'd say, because it would snow 18 inches every day.
All right, I've got 10 o'clock, I'm gonna go ahead and call our meeting to order, can I have a roll call, please?
Supervisor Clifton,
Here.
Fitch,
Here,
Stansel.
here.
All present, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Heather, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Diane, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye, any opposed? Motion carries. Any public comment this morning? If not, we do have one item on here to consider for approval before we begin our work session. It's an estimate of $86,500 from Lincoln Concrete to tear out and replace all the sidewalks, curbs, and truncated dome installation for the handicap area on the perimeter of the courthouse. Does that include all of the curbs?
Not just the bad spots.
Okay, that's what I thought, that's all the curbs.
But it is on the sidewalk.
Okay,
Okay, so it's all the sidewalk and just the curbs that are bad.
Yep.
okay.
Okay, and then it's all of those corners
Yep.
too?
All the dog ears and the handicap, all them red handicap.
And the other two bids were like 79 for piecemeal and
Yeah.
150 for all of it.
56, and,
Yeah.
wow.
And what's the timing on this, Chip?
For doing it,
Yeah.
if you guys approve it today, he can get started on it
He
immediately.
wanted to
Really?
quote, he wants to kind of work when they're here, I understood that, so we get,
He knows we want it done before Covered Bridge, if you guys approve it to be done.
Will you be okay with that? Any equipment issues running over it, or, because I
Yeah,
don't want them
yeah.
to do that work and then it'd be potentially damaged.
Yeah, we can work with them, we're taking the fencing down on the north and west side today, they're all complete, and I'll get to it, but yeah, the concrete on the south side should be, or on the east side, should be complete, here by the end of the week too, so.
Chip, and I assume you do like a side at a time?
Yeah.
With the city and
We should
limiting
be
parking
to
on
a
one
point by the
side.
time he's done
He was with
on,
me,
he
with
can
Drew
work
out here
on.
a while back, so he knows he needs to touch base with
Now-
the city and touch base with Jeff before starting. But
Yeah,
so what are we gonna do, let's say it starts on the north side, we don't want people to park there, so.
He'd cone an area off, he'd come here before anybody's
Yeah.
parked there.
So we'll have to, we probably should reach out to the city.
Yeah.
Well, that's what he just said.
Yeah, you, okay, you'll
If
do
you guys
that.
approve it, he's amazing, he's got a relationship with Drew
Okay,
and the new city
okay, we don't wanna make you do
inspectors,
that.
so.
I just want to make sure that there's no heavy equipment that still needs to go across the areas they're gonna be working
no,
on. Okay, all right.
All right,
Wow.
that all sounds wonderful.
And this is the whole solid bid,
What were the other two bids?
156, 156, and then 78 for piecemeal, right?
It's something like that.
Something like,
that.
I'm close, I
Yeah,
think.
do we have, wait, I wonder if we just pull them up.
Yeah.
I have it on my computer.
Let's see, when was that sent? Do you remember?
Oh. 2 weeks.
I did not.
It had to be close to a month ago, I bet.
I have it in.
Shoot, all right.
Oh, maybe,
Do you have a paper copy, Diane?
no, I put them in, I filed them this morning and
Oh.
And this is the only bid that, I mean, everybody else I've reached out to said they're too busy this year to even get to it this year.
yeah, because you called over 3 people.
Stromax,
maybe.
Alexander,
The bids we got were from you, right? Or from one of your
They're from-
subs? From Mitch's?
Yeah, somebody
Yeah,
from.
yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
I think I'm close,
I'm
156.
trying to find it so we can get it. If you guys wanna, I'll try to do that, if you guys wanna keep talking about whatever's next on our agenda,
I
I'll
don't
see
know.
if we can find it, or do we wanna just vote?
I think we can vote. I am curious on what they are if you find them, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna make any difference on my opinion.
No.
If that's the case, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Heather, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Diane, any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we are in our work session for the courthouse exterior entry renovations.
all right, I'll give you an update. Mitch in here, Midwest Caulk is finished with their coating on the north east side. Took the cones down today so it can be walked on, it can have traffic on it. The handrails, they're working on the handrails going down the ramps on the south side. Basement door frame came in and the basement door frame was made wrong, so.
Shocking.
They're just supposed to try to get an answer, you know, how soon they can get it turned over, but I was down taking measurements, getting ready to, and the hinge pockets were mortised in the wrong place, so. Concrete is all done, but the east side, we ran out of the colored concrete. We ordered it in, it was supposed to have been either Friday or today. They're gonna be back probably tomorrow to pour the rest of the concrete, and the concrete will be 100% done. And then they're gonna strip it on Thursday. Everything that's already been laid has been backfilled on the north and west side. They have backfilled it and have it ready for sod. We're gonna start laying sod. We're waiting for the heat to break here. So tomorrow or Thursday, they'll probably start laying sod. We got an approval on what to do with the pavers, so we're gonna move forward. They were actually supposed to start today. They haven't showed up yet today, but working on the pavers on the south side.
Do you think there'll be a rain delay today? They'll just continue working?
Yeah, they ain't gonna affect them laying that, so. Window sashes, I got, the Marvin guy is supposed to be in next week with us and help us put the 4 window sashes in. That, and then he had some extra parts. When last time he was here, he ordered some other parts for the windows, so he's got a few of them coming in.
So those are the 4 windows that didn't meet specs.
That needed to replace the sashes, yep. They were painted and stained and they're in the basement, and he's gonna come in and install them
You said that's happening today?
next week.
Oh, next week.
Yeah, he was booked up this week, so he thought midweek next week he could be down, so.
Okay.
And after sod, I've already talked to the roofers, after the sod's done, we'll finish the downspouts and run them out for 10-foot that it calls for. And I talked to Chip about if he wanted to, 10-foot, you know, not far enough, if he wanted to add something to bring it on out to the sidewalk or something, but.
Chip, what if you took a soft tile and put it onto the end of those, over the sod? You could even have perforated tile. Let it go out all over the yard. We could just go with a tile yard and get some 4-inch and hook it onto the downspouts, perforate it, and let it catch all that water on that sod.
Would that be a trip hazard?
Oh, I'd trip
Just
over a piece of.
run it short of the sidewalk so it isn't a trip hazard, so.
We could let it run out on the grass, yeah.
Would that, if it pools near the sidewalk, will that undermine the sidewalk?
No,
With tile, I don't think.
no,
Well, I'm not the water, it won't undermine the sidewalk?
no, because you're gonna have, we've got 6 inches, 6 to 8 inches of rock underneath the sidewalk.
Okay,
And the sod's gonna be up against it, you're not gonna have a lot that's gonna get there, and it'll never undermine it as long as it's filled in and sodded up to it.
Because it's on you to water the sod, how many weeks?
I think it's the landscaper for 2 weeks, and
And
then
then it
after that,
falls
I
on
think it
us.
falls into,
So we'll have to.
yeah.
how do we normally water our sod? Do we just let nature do it?
I've never had this.
Okay.
But it's
You want
important,
to water substantially to get it established.
Yes, you are.
you have to water a lot until first of frost, basically, right?
I would leave it to the spec, but yeah, I mean, it takes a good 6 weeks to get it established.
So how would we do that to make, because we don't have a sprinkler system now, how will we manage watering it to ensure?
You're gonna have to take hoses,
Lots of
put them on
hoses.
sprinklers,
Do we
drag them
have all
around.
those sprinklers?
I'll get some sprinklers, we got hoses, but yeah, I spoke to the city about getting meters to put on our spigots.
Can
So
you,
that way we're not paying
Big
For
sewer.
sewer.
lake fee and sewer and water.
Okay,
can you
good
pull it
idea.
out of our well? Can you do anything from our
Well, not
well?
my camera, I don't care if I want to run the
2 spigots instead of well, we'd be running it dry for running it.
Okay, so you're just
for
gonna,
the time, so I was just gonna run a northwest spigot from the well and then the south.
What do we use the
southwest.
well for right now?
We have
Just
water
that.
from 2 of the
Water.
spigots.
Okay,
2 spigots are and hooked up to the well.
okay, so, but the reason why I ask is if we, even if we run it dry, there's no harm in that, right? We can just run it dry and then that way we can
But then we'll
switch to
burn
the
the pump
city.
up,
burn
it's
up
in the
your-
basin
oh.
to the well.
Okay.
and you don't wanna burn up your pump.
We can use it some anyway.
During the day watering, I figure we'll use the well for sure, but
Okay.
if we're leaving something on overnight, I just preemptively have set up to get 2 meters from the city.
Okay.
So you're gonna have to have hoses and sprinklers and just keep dragging around
Kind of like
sprinklers.
they used to do in the old
Well, I got
days.
splitters,
That's what
so I'll
we
just,
used, yeah.
I'll just run splitters.
Yeah, yeah, you can do split.
We'll make it work.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Jeff. You brought up that, door in the basement. Are we gonna have a warranty on that tank and hardwire a sump pump in that? I'm not convinced that's not gonna keep water down there.
Which one were you talking about?
I'm not sure what you're asking yet.
In the basement, you know how the water has been kind of coming in?
Right, well, that, I think, is because of the slope of this, they were gonna fix, my last conversation, they were gonna fix that.
Okay.
I'd like a backup plan to the tank system.
What if we
Oh.
hardwire a
Rick
sump
had
pump?
mentioned a couple months ago, putting a sump pump and hardwiring it into,
Yeah,
I think for preventive measures moving forward, I'd like us to look into something like that.
we
Where-
hardwired a sump pump in our own house. Can you do
Would that be actually in the building, or are you talking about those?
A sump pump put into the tank and then we'd hardwire it from the building. But as a preventive measures moving forward, because I think we're gonna have more issues with that tank in years to come.
Okay.
Just the debris builds up, there's only one drain in the whole street out here, and I'm sure future there's gonna be more debris on the city's end, but I mean,
So what you're saying is, even if we fix that cement, like they said they're gonna do, we may have rains that overwhelm things, and it won't matter, it'll just, okay, so, what are your thoughts about that?
Our civil engineer says it's fine. So I think it's a good measure of backup. We debated this when we first put the documents together, and they felt it was unnecessary. If you want to add it, you certainly can do it. It's still going to have to discharge up out of the top or back to the city.
Right,
And to get the wiring there, you're going to have to go under the sidewalks now.
Oh.
Is that sidewalk to the southeast Benport?
I guess if the engineer feels it's adequate, I'd probably rely on that, and hopefully, if you had a problem of some sort,
Yeah.
then you could reconsider it.
Then we can
For the
reconsider.
meantime, I think probably go with what we got.
I think we should put a pin in it, and just watch very carefully next few rains, and be on top of it if there's issues. And if we have to do it, then, we'll have to bore under the sidewalk then.
And it'd be a significant rain before it became an issue.
Probably.
You know, if you got an inch of
Most
rain, it's no big deal. You got-
And we really have to be careful, because last time it flooded, that city drain was full of junk.
I'll be interested to see what happens on our next big rain, and I
Yeah.
think that will be the determining factor in how.
that's my point, if we had a sump pump in there and the city was plugged up, the sump pump would kick on and still pump it out into the
It
yard.
wouldn't be hard for us to go pull the stuff off that drain out in the city too. It was just, it's always full.
Chip's right, it's an added measure
It
of
is.
security.
We agree.
The engineer's saying it is not necessary.
We
So
agree.
with the backflow preventer in place and with the city
So
storm
is the backflow
clear,
been installed?
it will be, yes.
Okay. Do we know when that's gonna happen?
Come as they finish up the yard. I thought Elder was gonna do that per Mitch.
Well, yeah, I don't know where Mitch is at with that. He was taking care of that, getting that lined up.
Can we circle back and find out about that, because the fact that that's not, I just assumed it was already taken care of, because we've had multiple conversations about this. I'm a little nervous that it's not, so can
It
you?
is taken care of. I've talked to Mitch in the last 2 weeks about it.
Oh, so it's
So
done.
Yeah.
the original installer, Mitch could get no cooperation from, so he has discarded that, and he's got somebody else coming to install it. It's been approved. There will be a separate little manhole that will be a little bit south of the existing manholes to to service it if it ever needs service, but it's going into that location.
Okay, so the question I have is, do we know when? Because there's more rain coming, at least they say. And I don't wanna be caught flat-footed. So do we know when that's gonna happen, or can you come back and let Diane know, she'll let the board know when that's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have, how do we wanna start? Did you wanna just?
Jeff, you done
Jeff,
with anything you had?
Yeah, unless you got anything.
And so Rick, you have anything?
Well, there were a couple questions last week, one around the sealant around the doors and whether we should abate those. That sealant is,
It's really thick, I looked at that.
yeah, so let's get it
Probably
abated.
should.
You can do that directly. I don't know whether you have a recommendation or you want a recommendation from us on who can come do that, or we can get that moving. I don't know whether you have a preference as well that you would like somebody else to do abatement work. Do you know where Mitch lands on that?
I don't, yeah, we'll have to ask him how. I'm sure they got somebody that they use for.
Yeah, I mean, it's relatively easy to do.
I think we should move forward on that and find out what the next steps are and what the cost would be.
Yeah, but if you look at it now, it's like that thick right now, and to cover it up, it would look real
Terrible.
It
bad.
would look bad, yeah,
Just
I
be
saw it
putting-
too.
Let me ask Mitch if he's got a recommendation. Do you want to do that directly then? If I give you a few names, or how do you want to do that?
Sure.
Okay. I will give you some names,
Or do
and I'll
you
check
have
in with
do you
Mitch.
have somebody you use?
Well, that's what.
Yeah, so
Well,
that's what
that's
you're
what
gonna
I'm
do,
saying.
get three.
We'll make
yeah.
sure Chip's got that.
Yeah,
And I'll confirm the color of the sealant that we want to go back in there, but it's going to be close to the stone color.
So the color it is now is
Kind of.
not close to the stone color.
It's been varnished.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's brown, dry, and cracked.
Yeah.
The other question you had for me, Heather, was what is the handrail makeup of the material? It is an architectural bronze. It's been lacquer coated,
Okay,
so it should need maintenance for years, and it will certainly outlast anything that we would put in there that was steel.
so
okay.
it is bronze.
It's an architectural bronze, which basically means it's 60% copper and 40% zinc.
It looks like brass, but when I went to the manufacturer's website, all their bronze looks that color.
Yeah, it's architectural, brass is more yellow, architectural bronze will be more gold,
Okay.
okay?
But it does get a lovely patina, doesn't it?
It'll take a long time to do that with the lacquer coating on. You really have to wait for the lacquer coating to come off, and you don't have to do that. If the lacquer even starts to wear and it starts to patina, you can polish it and wax it, and it's just what you want to do with it.
I do have a question though on the handrail on the south side. I have not looked at the rails on the north or east side yet. There's part of the handrail, it looks like the lacquer has come off and there's like a silver exposure, almost like there's, I don't know if that is on top of it and it's just a flaw, but I thought maybe it was the solder, and I don't know, but it's a slight, it's right in the bend of the handrail.
Then it's probably solder, but I will take a look at it, which will be typical.
Okay. I just wasn't expecting a silver color, and that's kind of what triggered my questions as to
Okay.
the handrail.
I'll take a look at it, thank you.
And the door mechanicals, where are we with that?
I've had conversations with the supplier, they couldn't answer my questions to my satisfaction, so they've gone back to the manufacturer for clarification. We're supposed to have that back from them tomorrow.
Okay, so were they ordered and they're coming, or they're not
They're
ordered?
not ordered yet until we can understand exactly what the costs are and you're comfortable with all that.
Okay, all right, so when they are ordered, it's, correct me if I'm wrong, is it another 3 to 4 weeks after they're ordered before we see them?
Oh, it's gonna be 4 to 6 weeks at minimum.
Okay, so the south doors will not be ADA compliant, we won't be able to use them until, because it's gonna be 4 to 6 weeks for us to receive mechanicals, and then another 3 weeks for you guys to flip the doors and install
Yeah.
them.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're probably looking at, as soon as we figure out what we're doing, another 2 months before those are done. yes.
But you, is it fair to say, though, if you wanted to use them, they wouldn't be handicap accessible at that point, but you could still use them?
Yeah, they'll be
Yeah.
accessible, you can use them.
Okay. It's just, they won't be able.
You don't have to shut them down for take about a month by the time we take them off and get the doors reworked, and we rework the entryway and then reset the doors. It'd be about a month's worth of work,
So are we gonna install the internal doors then too, or are we gonna wait and do it?
We have to
all
wait
at
for
once?
the hinges are coming with these,
Oh,
so we're waiting on the hinges. We went with bigger, heavier duty hinges,
okay.
so.
So both sets of doors we're kind of waiting on until this is
Yeah,
resolved?
that's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
And then did we, I know there's probably discussion regarding we talked about the coating of the concrete of the ramp and the stairs. Did we get anywhere with that, resolve that?
I
Or
think
is
that's
that
in
still in
Mitch's, I think that's in Mitch's court.
Yeah.
Okay.
What
Same,
about-
the warranty, same
Yeah.
thing, that's an edge thing.
Yeah, I think all those things are gonna be balled up together.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
we want.
Okay. And then the windows, I know you said that the windows on the outside passed punch list, correct, Rick? It just on the inside, the trim, we're still having.
Yeah, we still have punch list items. We're gonna come back and do that one time.
Okay.
So we're not reviewing anything until they're all complete.
And
Okay,
they're all complete,
Okay?
been complete for 3 weeks now, so.
Yeah, we
we're
just,
Waiting for
yeah,
them.
fair enough.
Yeah.
okay,
They're, we've not had an opportunity to get down there to do that.
okay. So, and correct me if I'm misunderstanding, but are there punch lists for every single section of the project, and then you just work through those punch lists, or is there one big punch list?
It's one big punch list.
Okay, so, is everything, other than obviously the sod and the concrete, is everything on the outside, windows, dentals, everything on the outside already past punch list?
They have been listed items. We have not come back and done a final review on those items.
Okay,
Many of those cases, we have done a final review, many others we have not.
So they're still being worked on?
Yes.
so
and
there's still points, there's still exteriors of the windows being,
I don't think there's
worked on?
anything on the exterior windows that needs to
Okay,
be done.
that's what, okay, so,
Yes.
and then the dentals, those have been approved, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just for no clarification, for the roof line that they did, the flat roof parts, was those the flat roofs over the porticos, or were they the roof line that's part of the peak too? So those worked on, or no?
Just the flat roofs over the porticos. There was nothing else done on the roof to the main body of the courthouse, if that's what you're
Okay,
asking.
that's what I'm asking, because there's like a roof line of, like, you have the peak, and then there's a, I don't know what the official term is, but there's a roof, there's the metal roof line there. and
That
then-
was worked on.
That was worked on,
So
okay.
if we're on the same page here, if we're looking at the detail, the dentals that are kind of running up the roof, and then there's basically a water table roof line that sits
Correct.
here. This roof right here was worked on.
Okay,
None of this was.
okay, so that roof line, and there was dentals on that peak, those weren't worked on either?
These were repainted. These were repaired.
Ah, okay. Now, my question to you is, the dentals below that is what were replaced? Those?
Yes, some are at this level were replaced, others were just repainted.
Just repainted?
Yeah, they're not all replaced, you only replace the portions that were damaged.
Okay, no, I mean, I'm not talking about the damaged ones, from the beginning of the project.
Yes.
So the dentals that were there before, they were just repaired, or were that dental?
If
line-
there were some dentals here that were replaced,
Uh-huh.
and there's gonna be others, with sections that are repaired. So
Okay,
it's both.
okay. So we didn't pull the whole thing down and put a new?
Not in all cases.
Not in all cases, okay, okay, all right, and those are all meant punch lists for those. So it's safe to say those are done, we don't need to worry about them anymore, correct?
The only area that I would tell you that I don't know that I understand where it's at just yet is there is on the south side, there's a sealant joint that's right here that needs counter flashing and repair. I think it's currently been sealed. That's not something that's acceptable at this point.
Okay.
But
And-
everything else up here is good to go.
Okay, so is that something you guys can get up and do in a ladder? You won't need a lift for that, right?
No, they're probably gonna have to take a lift to get to this, get to that.
Yeah, but then how are you gonna not wreck up our yard and sidewalk?
I don't know. This is something
Can you
that
do it from the
was,
street?
it was done per, print, the way it was supposed to be done, and we've asked for, the roofer said that if they wanted to do something else this is done, the south side would be different than the other three sides, then we need something on it, we need a print on it, and we need a
So
direction.
Jeff, I'm gonna take issue with that. I know that's your opinion, but I think it's been done incorrectly, and the documents do show it being done in a manner that was not applied. And frankly, we told you not to seal it, and you proceeded anyway.
That's not true.
That is true, because I've got it documented. So that is something that we're going to have to change and repair. I don't know whether we can take a larger lift and do it from the street, but it's not something that's currently, that I'm going to currently accept. It may be something that the owner would accept, but I'm not going to accept it.
Is that something you can do scaffolding, Fred? I know
Yeah,
that's not ideal, but it would
scaffold be set
prevent,
up on the roof, on the portico, and be
it would
done on
prevent
the
any damage to
scaffolding.
the sidewalk or side, yes.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll leave it to you guys to figure that out.
Okay?
I just want to have a complete understanding of what's done, what was done, so I understand, because this was a worry of mine, is that we find things after those lifts were gone and we started pouring concrete, and that's,
yeah. We
That's my
punched
worry,
everything
because
that
we're-
was above, the portico line, everything's been punched above that, so.
okay,
And they were in last week doing the stone punch, so that should be pretty much wrapped up, any of the other stone around the building, so.
so did we, what did we decide regarding the southeast corner issue between the building and the rink? Were we able to clean?
We'll have to take a look at it. He hit it with a power washer and scrubbed it to see what he could do with it, but I guess I haven't noticed how well it came out,
So
or it's acceptable.
Was that done since last week?
This was last week, they were in,
Okay.
yeah, E&H were in, Tuesday or Wednesday when they showed up, and they were here the remainder of the week last week doing the stone.
So they went back and worked that, because I issued my field report probably Wednesday.
They went back and reworked all the stone. They came in with a high pressure washer and rewashed the stone, and all the other patches and stuff that we had on the punch list, they went ahead and hit all of them.
No, I understand that. I'm asking specifically about the reveal, because the field report and what we discussed on site was, let's have the mason try to get additional
Yes.
mortar off of that joint, and we would have that for your review.
Yes.
You're saying he's done that?
Yes.
That's as good as it's gonna get?
Yes.
Okay.
So you're referring to that transition?
Yeah.
Where it was
Yeah.
flush with the building and then was set back, and it left that the scar on the stone. And then, the
I
other.
thought it looked better, but I still don't like it.
I don't think there's a good solution to it.
I probably would
Well,
have left it the way it was the first
Put
time.
it back the way it was to cover that scar, I think.
Yeah,
But
but Rick
I'd
said
like to
it
look
has
at it to see what it looks like. And then the other thing we discussed last week was the cheek wall. Did you get a chance to look at that?
It's all, yeah, it's all in the field report.
Okay. So you feel that the workmanship was acceptable?
That's not what I said. It's in the field report, and basically anything that's a 3/4 of an inch joint should have been tooled. Not all were. I think those areas should be reworked. There are other areas, though, based on the existing conditions, that have been infilled with mortar. Some of those can be very large because there's a portion of stone missing, or they've been put back together over the years differently. Those have just been flat struck, and what those look like is, I mean, in terms of what they are today, I think is acceptable, unless you want to go back in and have those areas stone patched, which would be different than is on the drawings.
No, I understand the explanation about, it's older stone and in pulling it apart, we may have had some
Right.
pieces be missing or break, and that unfortunately it's an old building, it's part of the issue.
Right.
The issue I have is that, the infill that they used with the mortar was not made smooth, in my opinion. It kind of looked like mashed potatoes. It's probably the best description I can make. Where I thought, where if you had to do that, at least, the very least, you would make it smooth, so it would look, look better.
I don't think they wanted to do a steel trowel finish on it, because that's gonna be different than the texture of the stone. So striking it vertically flush in those areas, I think, is probably a thing that will make it less visible. If you were to do as maybe you're suggesting, it's going to darken that area and actually make it more visible.
To smooth out the mortar would make it look more
Yeah,
visible?
when you tool mortar, it gets darker.
Okay.
So, and it all depends on the moisture content of mortar, and it's very difficult to control. I think in the areas other than the 3/4 inch joints that haven't been struck, I think it's acceptable.
Okay. I just don't think it looks good. It looks like it was just thrown together. It doesn't look professional, in my opinion. So I don't know what the rest of the board has had a chance to look at that. Now, obviously, the southeast cheek wall was the worst, in my opinion. The other ones don't look as bad, but it just doesn't look good to me. So have you looked at it? You guys looked at it?
Oh, closely,
Look at it.
I looked at them all.
And you're okay with that?
I really kind of am, because they used what they had, and they put it back.
What do you mean they used it? I'm
Well, they used-
not talking about the stone pieces, I'm talking about the actual,
The grout.
the grout that they used to.
I think it looks wide because they had some compromised stone, they used it again, I think they put it in. If you would trowel that, it would be so smooth, I don't think it would look good. I
You don't think
it
it's
looks,
looking smooth against the stone would look good? Because right now it looks lumpy.
I don't know about the lumpy. I'm not upset with it.
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay.
So I need to ask a question to be clear here. My direction and what I'm going to accept is that they take the 3/4 inch joints that have not been tooled and they rework those. They're gonna have to cut those out and put those back in. Anything larger than that is acceptable. Is that what you're saying you agree with, or are you saying you're going to accept them as is?
Well, I would agree with taking those out. If that's what you want, then that's fine. If you want to take them out, take them out.
I think those should have been tooled.
I do, well, those.
If that's your recommendation, Rick.
Then you do
I'm
what
good
you
with
say.
that.
Yeah, take them out. What about, the plaster work? Can you get a new estimate on that? That was so expensive. Because we don't want that hole there.
It all depends, and I talked to you about this, it all depends on how they're repairing it. If they're just doing drywall and mud at best, that's very high. But if they're doing a traditional plaster and lath, that's not, I mean, it's a little high, but it's within reason in my mind, and because I've had to do repair in my house in plaster and lath. It's a skill set, and you have to cut the actual lath, and then you have to, it takes 3 or 4 coats at, well, residential's was that, I think, architectural, commercials, they did a lot heavier back then, did they not? It was thicker.
Next to the
So, it did seem a little high. Do we know what methodology they're using?
They haven't got back to me, I didn't know them first ever.
And you reached out, you and I had discussed reaching out to the Amish because they know how to do it. That might be cheaper.
So can I ask some questions here?
Sure.
Because this is a little bit surprising to me. The stairs have not been completely repaired. We fixed just the treads in very specific areas. To fully repair the treads and to stabilize them, you need to remove that plaster over the whole thing. Is that what we're talking about?
That's what we're talking about.
And it has a
Okay.
hole there, and it might be
Wait.
years.
Wait, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this repair was just to infill and fix the hole, right? It's not to tear everything out
No,
and
it's not to
start
tear
over.
everything out.
It was just to
it's
shore up.
basically, it's saying,
Yeah.
we've got it shored up for now,
Yeah.
we're gonna leave it
Okay.
at that.
It's just filling the
And
holes.
let's fill the
That's
holes
what I
in,
thought.
and
And what-
we realize that we may have to
That's all
go
this
back
is.
and have a major
We
project.
know that, but we don't want that hole there for 10 years or whenever we can afford to shore everything up.
We should shore things up soon. So we had discussed earlier that potentially this is something you wanted to turn to pry holes, or you could do it separately as well, that's fine.
Okay,
But I think that you need to get those stairs stabilized.
okay, so we really shouldn't even be discussing
No.
repairing that hole right now. We
You-
should,
You can, but you need to understand, you're gonna be pulling all out again.
okay, so
Let's leave the hole.
So the fix that was done, in your opinion, is just temporary?
It's basically addressing just a select area, the worst treads that we had, but basically that whole bottom on both stairs should be removed, and we should put in the fix that we offered in the detail for all of the treads to stabilize that better.
okay, so getting this quote was premature.
Well,
Yes.
it depends. It
Because I
depends
know
if
you guys want it to look good for covered bridge.
Well, I'm not,
I care about
it's,
covered bridge.
if you're gonna redo these stairs, or are we gonna redo these stairs, at what expense and at what time frame? If it's not within the next 12 months, I think we should cover up the holes and,
Well, from a
make a plan.
safety issue, based on, what I understand Rick is saying, is something we should do sooner rather than later, and.
I don't think it's a safety issue. I think the safety issue is addressed. I think it will be a safety issue in the future if it's not stabilized.
Okay, so this is something I think we should address within the next year, Phil.
well, that's the consideration you're making. And at what cost do you address it now versus, okay, we've got a Band-Aid on it, we'll address it when it becomes a problem again, which might be 5 years, I don't know.
Well, we already know those treads were a problem, and we were surprised at the problem, and we addressed the immediate problem. But what I don't want is another surprise coming in 6 or 7 months and someone get injured.
I
So,
don't think we're talking about someone getting injured, but we may mean shutting down the stairway.
well, we had someone that went through the tread. Didn't Steve go through the tread? or-
One of the weathers did carry in one broke there.
Okay, so, so that leads me to believe if there's compromise at the site where there was an issue that we fixed, there may be compromise at other treads as well. And I don't wanna be surprised in the future with an injury, which would be far worse, I think, than addressing the issue. So, now that I have a full understanding, I would be more supportive of evaluating the entire stairway and fixing it properly before we do a repair to cover the hole.
Rick, are you talking east and west or just the east?
I think you need to stabilize both, yeah.
And it's just the first, just between first and second? Or are you talking
Second,
between?
Second, third,
Second, third, but first and second's okay.
yeah, it's just second and third.
So we can discuss that further on, our next meeting and maybe get some bids on that, but I'm very nervous about just fixing a hole, which in my mind right now is cosmetic, rather than address a potential issue down the line.
How about if we leave the hole, leave it, it's cosmetic. If it bothers us so much, we'll hang some historic thing over it. And then we'll move on, and in 6 months, or getting closer to budget, let's talk about, because we could do this in the winter.
Yeah.
We could, and then a little bit closer to see where we're standing on money.
We need to know where we're sitting financially.
We gotta
that's what I'm
see,
saying.
Right.
we gotta be careful here, because we
I'm
just
seeing
spent.
$100,000 project.
Yeah, and we just spent all this money on sidewalks, so let's kind of, we can wait 6 months.
It's
We've
been
got them
that- it's
shored
been that
up,
way
so
for a
they're
long
safe.
time.
Yeah, we'll wait, and then wait a little bit and come
100,000
back.
is probably cheap.
That was my concern.
What'd you say, Jeff?
I don't think 100,000.
Yeah, I think you're
By
right.
the time you tear all the ply, you see what it is for
Oh,
a
no,
small
and you're
repair.
tearing the whole thing down.
Right, and I get, I don't wanna spend the money either, but on the flip side, if someone gets injured, it's gonna cost us a lot more than $100,000.
Well, those walking through that they were continually at carrying really heavy things up there, and that could have, and then we carried all the stuff out of the attic. I don't know, we probably
I'm
could
just putting
undo
it
some
out there
pressure.
that I'm.
Well, we're not disagreeing with you, we're just going to see where
We're
we are
saying
with
it
money, and
probably
we'll
does need to
do
be
it, but
addressed,
we have
but-
to see.
On what time frame?
I don't think we can do it tomorrow.
Well, no, I'm not saying do it tomorrow, but it's definitely something we should consider in the next year.
Well, I think we can, but we kind of gotta see.
Do you want to prepare a full official request for proposal and have Mitch give you a price for the things so you understand what you're dealing with?
I think we should
I
take a
suppose we
breath.
should, so we're
I
not,
think we
well,
should
be
too.
nice,
You don't have to award it,
be nice to know,
but you can understand where the
are we
cost
talking
is.
100,000, 250,000?
That is something that could easily be addressed by Brian Holtz.
Let's get a number, so at least
Okay.
we're not shooting from the hip.
Yeah.
I doubt very much it's something that we're gonna say, yes, let's do it this fall.
Well,
Yeah.
you can take the bottom off of it, you can stabilize the treads, you can make sure that the ones are split or brought back together. You have to refinish the whole thing, I mean, you can do things internally that are necessary to stabilize it, and you can do the cosmetic things externally that will help defray some of the costs.
And the cosmetic things, would you say that is the greater cost? Putting in the parts like that?
Yeah, I don't know that it's greater, but it's a significant cost, because you've got refinishing, and it's intricate, and it's not an
Okay, I
easy.
didn't think of that. We can make it, we can stabilize it and wait to do the cosmetic later,
Right.
depending on finances. Is there a way they can bid those two separate?
It would look
Just
like crap
have to-
if
You
you
don't
tore all
want-
that off there and left it indefinitely. I think it's an all or nothing.
Do it all together, we don't wanna refinish them.
Okay.
Jeff, you were saying, you have a good idea, 100,000 isn't gonna touch it, is that?
No, it ain't
That
gonna
would
touch
touch
it.
one staircase.
You'd be lucky to even touch one stair.
Could be
You're gonna
150.
be you're gonna have to set scaffold up the whole way up through there. They're gonna be, it may be quite the ordeal to take.
Realistically, 150 to 200 per staircase is what it would probably,
Wow.
but they'd be done right.
Yeah,
They've
and then
been-
you tear them out.
They've been.
But you- That's just doing the bottom side, and that's without cosmetic.
That's
If you
right,
start
that's what I'm talking
adding
about.
trim work and stuff on the top side, now you're gonna get way over that, you know. But that's just to tear the bottom out, solidify the stairs, and then build it back in and patch it back in. But yeah, if you get
Then
in
he
the
said
lower,
his predecessor temporarily screwed it, as Denny did, and as Denny had any for just securing stuff, I mean. But structurally wise, I mean, they've been taking millions of foot feet for 150 years.
Yeah. Well,
I
get
think
that.
I think we should get a bid, and that way we'll know where we're at, and we can figure out how to move forward accordingly. So,
And Brenda can start looking for grants.
All right, well, we kind of know
There's always grants.
what the next step is on that.
All right, thank you.
that might take more exploratory, I don't know. That west side hasn't even been opened up to be inspected, has it? So,
I think we know the method, though, that we would repair, we would just assume
Right.
that we'd do that to all the treads going up.
I see.
And we'd identify the ones that are split and need to be brought back together, and then we put it back.
Right.
I think that's probably the minimal cost, and then if we want to, you know, make sure all the trim and everything else is refinished on the outside, that's something that we have to price separately.
Yeah.
I don't have anything, Heather brought it all up.
The only thing I had is, when the sod comes in, what type of fencing do you think is appropriate to keep traffic off of the sod? Particularly Bridge Festival, I mean, if one or two people walk across there, it's no big deal, but 10,000 people, that's not something you want on that
I
side.
think if we're keeping it watered, I don't think there's gonna be that many people, they're gonna walk the sidewalk, they won't be off in the sod. And if you've got, we keep sprinklers on it, it'll be wet and muddy
Grass will be
and,
tall.
yeah.
I could see,
The best way
Kids,
to
though,
keep people
or-
off is keep water on
So you don't keep the sprinklers on maybe during it.
it. Yes.
Well,
Kids might run through it, but little
Well,
tiny kids.
You're gonna have the hoses running over sidewalks and stuff, so probably that weekend you're not gonna be.
I think we should still fence it off for some covered bridge.
It could be
But he
something
took his
as-
fence away.
But I don't want that fence, it could be something as simple as
Just a
Caution
caution with
tape.
some
lath and
tape.
caution tape or
Okay.
something.
We could make a bunch of signs, please keep off the direct grass too, so they try to respect that.
Do we wanna just do that, or just wall off the whole court?
He could use caution tape all the way around and then just say, write signs everywhere, please stay off the grass. I mean, some people will and some
I want it to be unobtrusive, but I don't
Me
want,
too.
I don't want 10,000 people walking on it.
Mhm. You know, you could probably come up with some kind of, how did I see this sign?
And really, I think you're just talking about festival, and normal
Yeah.
traffic isn't gonna be enough. to make it.
No.
We can come up with something
I
that's.
think we put signs and just keep the entrances open so people can use the porticos to sit. And during Cold Bridge Festival, those people will abide by the signage and stay
And if
off.
they can sit on the steps, which we could do, that would probably alleviate walking on the grass. I think you're right.
Okay, I didn't have anything else. Anybody else? Okay. If not, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Diane, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Heather, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
We do have one resolution to
That's just
Civic
before,
design, yes,
the
that's-
one out last week, I never received it, so.
It is
Okay, I
right
was just
here
saying
for
this,
for your
but-
hot little
Your
signature.
email, Maybe Jimmy has it, I don't know if I do.
You may want
Jeff,
to
the,
initial the bid that's behind it too.
In hindsight, we should have probably, should have maybe brought that to us, subject to
Jeff,
the
the
insurance.
rifle.
And then once they got the
Yeah.
insurance.
You want the
that's when
last
they
several?
approved.
I'm so
well, he usually sends it
I
to me, I
didn't-
don't know if he was.
No, I didn't do
Okay,
anything,
you were
but
talking
had
about
it come to
Cooper, I
us
didn't see it
earlier,
last week.
subject to receipt of
I
insurance.
didn't know
Okay,
what
I
we
would
came
have
up with
approved that,
on
but
the
this last
cheap
minute
one,
thing,
what we were gonna do.
and I'd have had to
I
drive here,
know,
and I had
And
to.
you know what?
My
I was
state's in
supposed
town,
on
still
their
down here.
Facebook that they had canceled the fireworks because of their insurance
Probably
and
get
for the
them to,
supervisor's process.
get on that.
Well, that's true.
Well, they didn't get it to us, it's
Yeah,
not
well,
our
they
fault.
made it sound like it's our fault, so it's not.
Everybody makes everything.
It's actually Iowa code, we can't,
Exactly.
we can't.
So, do you know,
Took a lot of
P&H
investigation,
and
and that was
dressing stone, those inside corner joints and.
The insurance,
Trying to wash
I
them.
talked to
Yeah.
insurance,
I told, Brandon.
they
that's what we
found
wanted
coverage
to
for
do, see.
$3,000, but they're at least able to change the date.
I
So
know they
they're
done
gonna
some
do
on
it
the west side, and you can look at it,
The
the east side.
crazy part of that is, had it happened 4th of July weekend,
Look over there, see
like,
what they get, but no problem.
I
He's
know.
only getting
And
stars down
and there
on
wouldn't have been any
the
question on the
much
insurance if something happened.
what
They'd have been
we
right.
I think this sets, if we
Went
would
back
have
in
done
there, I
that,
don't know
it
if
kind of
they're gonna
sets a
get-
precedent,
they're
that
gonna
you
No,
can do
I don't
everything
disagree, the
right.
more I looked into it, the more,
I was
Yeah.
not comfortable.
regarding the pavers, they said they're starting, being made, whenever there's a change in the bid and contract, they really need to.
Yeah, we're not-
Really, Diane, that's not something.
No, you're slipping, money is slipping back.
It's not about the money, it's about the actual work.
Is Anne Maria
They're not doing it.
Yeah, we're approving
She's-
something
She's
different
copied
than
in
what
all
was
of
bid.
the
So that's not
correspondence,
something
she's,
you have the authority.
part of her
to
job
do.
is
That's
primarily
under-
taking the times, have been using Jimmy a lot, but
We
yeah,
can't
she's
just
still
be approving
there.
that.
So if you need anything from her, yeah, sure.
And we can't be approving it via email, it's outside the
In
meeting.
No worries at all,
All right.
okay?
In
We
the
had all
on the
agreed
EMS
we
building,
didn't
there were
want it.
certain changes that the
Yeah.
point person was allowed to make.
All right, anything I need to see, Jeff,
That's
over
not,
there?
that's not what we approved.
Unless you want to look.
None
at
of us
the
wanted
stone.
that, and he
I don't
needed to
disagree, but we
coordinate it.
cannot be having conversations about changes outside of the meeting. So going forward, we need to be doing that in the meeting. Is it on the agenda for next week to approve?
We'll put it on the agenda for approval.
Even though it's already gonna be done by then?
Oh, I don't think it'll be done. We don't know.
Because they said it's
They
gonna
get
be-
here.
They said they're gonna be late today.
Yeah,
starting
they
today.
say that, they said that last week too, so we'll see.
Do you guys though have the cost quantity?
No, we don't have anything, this was,
No, but I
we have
meant,
nothing.
We just,
Do I need to
Rick
increase
said it didn't need to be done, so you take it up with Rick, because it's all, something that we,
Well, it's still
It's
a
gonna
change
save
order.
us huge amount of money.
It's still a change order that we have to approve.
well, okay, we'll get Rick to change it.
Will Steve back over the office?
I don't know, I'll see if I can catch him.
Okay.
One thing,
Or email me.
when there's something at the last meeting and you guys were talking, I wanted to have everybody here, but What about something about the lighted handrails, and we didn't have enough power because they made them 208
That's what we
instead
forgot to
of?
talk about today.
I was gonna say something, but I didn't know if I think I can.
And that was something that Chip was supposed to bring up, I think, and I forgot to bring it up.
Well, I was gonna say something, and I wanted to catch everybody to see what the deal was, because that was really weird, and if you gotta replace a whole box and get
That's
more,
something we're gonna have to
bring in more
discuss.
power, that's not cheap. That's not cheap.
Yeah, so I'll send him an email and ask.
Well,
him
I
a
just
question.
wondered,